there's all these stories about, guys over in Macedonia who are running these fake news sites.
Number 24 is content farms in Macedonia.
Бидејќи ако се направи грешка, таа ќе биде кобна. Нема враќање назад.
So Europe need to remain more sexy lady in the world. Ajde, majkata!
Господа ја чува Македонија и низините граѓани.
On International Anti-Corruption Day, Ali Ahmeti favorite and Dewey darling Artan Grubi and his immediate family are put on the U.S. sanctions list for his, quote, involvement in significant corruption, unquote. The party of Ali Ahmeti, Dewey, says it will respect the decision, and for his part, Grubi said, quote, as someone who dedicated his public life to the protection of Western democratic values and who always worked hard for the country's membership of NATO and the EU, this decision concerns me personally, unquote. Why, yes, it does, Artan. Meanwhile, Macedonia's constitutional court kicked their plan to make a decision on the controversial language law down the road by up to 3 months, as the ethnic Albanian members of the court decided to boycott the session, which, checks notes, is called dereliction of duty. So much for the statements of Macedonia's ethnic Albanian leaders that they admire and uphold the law. Media reports noted that, quote, the law has drawn criticism from both domestic and international observers, including the Venice Commission, the Council of Europe's advisory body on constitutional matters, unquote. And after their 7th parliamentary election in 4 years, on October 27, the Bulgarians still can't form a government, with a headline in the Sofia Globe reading, quote, Bulgaria, somber mood hangs over process towards bidding to elect government, unquote. Oh, I love this. We'll discuss all this and more in this episode of the Macedonian Content Farmers Podcast. I'm Jason Miko, coming to you from the foot of the Catalina Mountains in Oro Valley, Arizona.
And this is Cvetin Chelimanov in Skopje, Macedonia.
How you doing, Cvetin?
Great. Having fun. Interesting week. Lots of events.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Interesting all over the world. This is episode 184, and we're recording this on Friday the 13th of December. Oh, yes. So maybe we'll get this out on Saturday. I don't know. But anyway, there's a hell of a lot going on around the world. And it's, the Christmas season, 25th here, 7th of January there, New Year's in between. We've just world events are, it's like this past week seems to be one of those weeks where decades have occurred.
Yes, exactly.
And Macedonia is no stranger to this. So yes, Ali Ahmeti's favorite, Artan Grubi, and is now withdrawn from public life. So he says, I love this other quote from Grubi. I'm clean as a whistle before God, my family, and my friends. His only God, by the way, is money and power. I'm sure of that. I don't even think he's a good, quote-unquote, Muslim. So
no, he was actually pretty... He started his career by being... now, this was under the Bush term, and the Albanians were pretty scared of being tied with Islam. So his career was to promote Mother Teresa's Albanian in nationalist frames, not in the spiritual frame, and to attack political opponents, Albanians, including, he had a very long-running rivalry in the Skopje district with Izet Medjiti, who was then mayor, who's now deputy prime minister, who practically split Dewey, took a lot of Dewey activists and left the party. And Artan would accuse Izet of being an Islamist. He would plant news items against Izet. He would blame him of being, the Albanians would say those with the beards. Onije Sobradita, the beard faction. So he was actually pretty strong on secular, we're progressive Muslims, modern people, we drink alcohol, we gamble, we whore, we do all the...
we whore.
They would literally say that.
Did it? Wow.
That was literally their talking point to Bush people, when they would come here and ask, but guys, you're Muslims. Just look at us. So this was Artan. This is what he was doing.
Right. Wow. Well, and of course he got to start as a football hooligan. Then then Ali Ahmeti's party, Dewey, was in government for, well, almost 20 years, and so he became a politician, then he became a corrupt politician. Now he says in his statement, besides being as clean as a whistle, he's going to leave politics, and I suppose he'll just go back to being an ordinary criminal as opposed to a professional political criminal. So, and of course, as I understand it, the government now, the prosecutor's office, is going to take a look at these accusations from the U.S. State Department and look into that. Yeah, exactly. This does a lot of damage, I think, to Ali Ahmeti's party, Dewey, and to Ali Ahmeti personally, who is still trying to remain relevant with his shtick, his stunt in front of the Constitutional Court, which we can get into in a minute. But the man won't go away. I suppose remember the funny quote here in the U.S. Senate. Nevertheless, she persisted. So nevertheless, he persisted. So he just won't go away. But he is rapidly getting hit from all sides, and I mean, at some point, he's got to leave the political scene one way or the other.
No, I don't want to underestimate him after all these years, but I don't see him coming back from this. So this is the hit from the one place that matters, and that is the U.S. State Department, and most importantly, the current State Department, which has had tremendously cozy ties with UÇK commanders, with the Albanian gangsters and warlords in the region, and they can only expect the next State Department to be worse for them. For their nationalist cause, because these are the Clinton, Biden, and Obama, and even Bush period people who are supporting the UÇK faction, the commanders, warlords faction in Kosovo and Macedonia. And the next team, I mean, Albanians are very resourceful. Their lobby is very strong. I mean, they could make inroads with the next administration, but these diplomats have been. These ties have been decades in the making, and particularly Artan has, in the previous government, they had a perfectly, functional transportation minister, infrastructure minister from SDSM, but SDSM gave the department of the task of negotiating this huge Bechtel deal to Artan. And he made a huge nationalist show of it, because he made a point that the priority sections will be Titovo-Gustivar, which already has a highway, a small one, narrow gauge, but still, Gustivar-Kičeva, and the two connections to Albania and Kosovo. And then Ahmeti Artan would present this like, we're building highways in all the Albanian parts of the Macedonia, and we're giving one section to the Macedonians between Prilep and Bitola, but everything else is going our way. We're building the section to Kosovo from Skopje, we're building a section from Struga to Albania. So, they were presenting this in hugely nationalist terms. Artan would go on Kosovo television, they would put up a map showing all of Albanian lands, and then we're building like a ring road among the Albanian citizens, and we're having Macedonians pay for it. But even more importantly, this is something that's directly negotiated with the U.S. Embassy, with the U.S. government, because, Bechtel is a semi-governmental company, construction company. So not only they've been building ties for so long, these are serious money put on the table to buy influence with the U.S. government. And to have this happen to a person who was charged with such a vital negotiation, such a vital project for the U.S. government, to have the still current administration, still current, the diplomats do this to Artan, this is really monumental. This is a huge deal.
Right. Well, a couple of things. Number one, on the Bechtel, it's obviously it's a private company, but probably, and I haven't looked into it for quite some time, but probably a lot of, or a fair number of former U.S. diplomats and others are part of it, much like, Madeleine Albright's group and others have been involved in many other large infrastructure projects, not just in the Balkans, but around the world. This is kind of this is the kind of way it works. But let's not forget, and going back to your point about Artan and his secular Islam, or his "we whore" quote. I love that. Let's not forget that Bechtel is also, this is Bechtel Inkel, I believe is the name of the Turkish company.
Yeah.
So it's a joint venture, and of course Inkel is close to the Turkish government, and Erdogan is definitely Islamist, looking to reconstitute Caliphate 2.0 in the region to begin with. Not to mention what he's doing in the Middle East itself. So that's all, which is very interesting as well. So the second thing is that your article in Republika, I think it was yesterday, the day before, was excellent. I think we should put that in the show notes. And I posted it on Facebook and got a ton of interest in it. So quite good. And yeah, so your point about his relationship with the U.S. Ali Ahmeti's relationship with the U.S., the Dewey Party's relationship with the U.S., and when I say the U.S., I mean the State Department, of course, is well taken. So, it'll be very interesting to see, and I see that Alexander Nikolowski, who's the Deputy Prime Minister, he's also the Minister of Transport, right? Yeah. So he's in charge now of these construction projects.
Sure.
And he made the point that, this is the end of Ali Ahmeti and probably Dewey.
Yeah. He's taken their contract from their hands. He's now implementing it much more seriously, because at one point Artan was trying to pretend that he's actually building something, so he would have like football fan torches, which you light at football stadiums, and they had the press come to a groundbreaking site and the highway, and they would burn. They say, we're now mining the mountain, and I mean, I'm not an expert, but you can tell this was not an actual mine meant to blast through a mountain. So he did this twice. On the first time, it was actually mountainous terrain, but you could just see like colorful smoke going up. It was not an actual dynamite stick.
Exactly.
And the second time, they were actually mining the flattest part of Macedonia. They were mining in Pelagonia. There is nothing to blast through. It's like completely flat terrain, and they were blowing something up, just lighting torches on fire. Probably he borrowed them from his football hooligan fans. So it was beautiful. He gave us so many notable moments, and the last. So for a while it looked scary, because they had actually pretty competently organized disturbances, competently in the sense that you can competently do a political disturbance over the Albanian Flag Day, Independence Day on the 28th of November, where Dewey had obviously both Dewey and the ruling coalition Vlen were organizing celebratory gatherings in their districts, where whoever is stronger in which city, and groups associated with Artan were being deliberately provocative toward the police. They were burning Macedonian flags. They would throw it on the ground and then drive with a car over the Macedonian flag, daring the police to arrest them. The police did. Then Macedonians protested and burned the Albanian flag in Prilep, a group of Macedonians. So the police had to arrest them as well. So it was a pretty, ugly moment for a few days. Then Dewey had they're members of the Constitutional Court, along with the SDSM members, who are, all the members of the Constitutional Court are either Dewey or SDSM at this moment. One is maybe kind of like neutral. And they initiated a challenge of the law which Ahmeti and Zaev passed on the use of the Albanian language, in which they greatly expanded the use in a way which is clearly unconstitutional, that made it an obligation of ethnic Macedonians, clerks to know the Albanian language, or at least this is how Ahmeti was portraying the law, saying we will force them to learn Albanian. It was a hugely nationalist and provocative move. And now they're trying to shoot down the law. But at the same time, Dewey had their judges step down from the court, like not resign, but say we're not participating in this attack on the law by the government, by the VMRO government and the Vlen government. So they were initiating the session to overturn the law, but at the same time they were accusing the government of trying to overturn the law. In the mind of the Albanian public, they would tell them, listen, it's happening now, the court is moving against the law now, it means the government is at fault, even though the government does not control the court. In fact, all the judges were appointed by DUI and SDSM. So it looked that they put a tent in front of the court in downtown Skopje. They were trying to bring some supporters. They were failing. Few people showed up, but still, there was danger of another disturbance shortly after the Flag Day, almost riots. And then this move by the U.S. Embassy, by the State Department, completely knocked the wind out of them.
Yeah, that was timed to have. I mean, I have, God knows, everybody knows that I have my criticisms, multiple criticisms of the U.S. State Department and the embassy, but this was definitely timed, and it was well timed, actually.
Yeah. We have to ask ourselves, what's the catch? How come they're
it's
doing
too good
this
to
now?
be true.
Yeah, it can be.
What do we have to pay now for this? So
Yeah. What's it going to cost us? But still, it's a major deliverable from their part because, reining in these hooligans, these monsters, which they themselves created and fed for so long, and empowered. But also there were signs that they're not doing well. So, what was it, like 6 months ago or maybe more? Burns was in the region, the CIA director, and he met Ali Ahmeti. So we were seeing that. I said the most dangerous period for us, for other countries like Syria, ethnically mixed, former war zones, is between when a left-wing U.S. president is out and a conservative guy comes in. All the crap that was supposed to happen over the next term, over the next 4 years, it gets condensed in a matter of months. So we had the war in 2001 as Clinton was out and Bush was coming in. A war started by Clinton's Albanian pets in the region. We had the colored revolution was started in Obama's term, but it culminated in as Obama was out and Trump was coming in, and it became clear that we won't get 4 years of Hillary Clinton, business as usual. So this is dangerous times. This is a dangerous period. But we had an inkling that it's not going well because they had the CIA visit, the CIA meeting. But then as the Trump team was being set up, Artan made this very loud pronouncement through media outlets which are close to him that he's very good friends with the next CIA director. Mike Waltz, a congressman from Texas, who was once present at some Albanian event and was photographed. They had him do the Albanian arms eagle flag thing. So, okay, we do some digging. What's the catch here? What's happening? Artan was saying, even under Trump, we'll have great connections. We will be working closely with the new CIA director, and he will do our bidding because Artan is good friends with him. But then it turns out that Artan visited Washington in 2018, like 6 years ago, and he met like a bunch of congressmen, which is a normal, customary type of meeting organized by the parliament, the embassy, the congress people. Tons of Macedonian members of parliament have done this. And, during this, he would take pictures in the hallway of the Congress with all of them. And one of them happened to be Mike Waltz, and he has this picture, so he dug up this 6.5 years old picture of Waltz, and he made it look like they're close friends, and they're working together on the Albanian nationalist cause in the region. So this looked like desperation. This is the moment which showed us that, okay, I think he's getting scared and desperate.
Yeah, well, it's all over for Artan, but the final act, whatever that might be, and it'd be interesting to see what he does next. If he kind of fades away quietly, or if he.
Oh no, they won't let him.
Sorry.
No, his car was torched once while he was
remember
still,
that,
I think. Yeah. He has made, his mouth has written so many checks that he can't cash in now. So, I'm probably butchering this expression, but yeah, he's gonna.
Yeah, and the Albanian mafia is quite strong in the region, and there have been, under the former government of Dewey and Sirasa, an uptick, I think, in gang shootings, gang violence, which is largely, I think, on the side of the Albanians in Macedonia and the region, and who knows how deep Grubi is in with, all those folks, and what could happen to him. And there have been a number of murders of gangsters and others, and he is, for all intents and purposes, a Albanian gangster. So
going to prison, if he can be kept safe there, is one of the better options for him.
Well, we will see. Right. So, and back on the language laws. So, as I mentioned in the opening monologue, it's been criticized both domestically and internationally, including by the Venice Commission. So, there's problems with it. And I don't know all the details. They did see something. Correct me if I'm wrong on this. That the language law would, as it stands, would allow for the Albanian language to be on banknotes. Is that correct, or did I read that wrong?
I'm not sure. I get a lot of conflicting reports.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. Politically, it's a poison pill for VLIN, for the Albanian coalition in the government, and obviously VMRO wants them to have like a proper share of government, not the hugely outsized role in the government that Dewey had under SDSM. A proper share of government relevant to their size in population, etc. But does not want to humiliate VLIN to, have them seen as a doormat. So eventually it was postponed by the court until spring. We'll see whether they want to make a move before the local elections. So this might be an attempt by Dewey to, plant this landmine to reignite again before the local elections, and then have like maximum effect. We are winning, Dewey is winning municipalities among Albanians because they want to portray VLIN as not defending something that Dewey managed to box out, to win a major, to gain from SDSM. But we'll see what happens with Dewey until then. I mean, right now, VMRO is in a huge upswing after this move. The next day, there was a mass arrest of former directors in the largest company in the country, the state-owned energy company, ELEM, or ESM now, with the North addition of the North adjective. One of its former directors, very close to Zaev, very corrupt person, fled to Vienna to avoid arrest a few months ago. Another director was outside of the country, probably fleeing, but was compelled to come back, so he was arrested at the border, and a couple of dozen people were arrested, like mid-level, high-level former managers appointed by SDSM. The SDSM were robbing this company blind, to the point they hugely undermined our energy independence, which was probably the point. They were lining their pockets, but also making sure that we are not an independent country anymore that can stand up to pressure from our neighbors. Mickovski says he's going to work hard to reverse this, to make Macedonia energy independent again. This means digging coal and burning the beautiful coal which we have in our country. Immediately after this, arrests in Ilem, arrests in, charges. I don't think they arrested the people there in this hugely corrupt innovation fund, where SDSM was giving money to their journalists, to political friends, who would have a company and report that they came up with some kind of like a invention and they needed money to implement it in their company. This was all crapola. This was all bogus. They were giving grants to people like Sasha Ordanovsky, or his brother, more precisely, for their good services in propaganda. So, VMRO is now in a huge upswing.
Right. It seems like, so it's been, let's see, the government was elected in, was it June?
I think
the elections. Yeah, June. So we got July, August, September, October, November, December. So 6 months. 6 months into the new government. First of all, they had to, get appointments made and people in office and look at the books and things like that. So they've gotten that under control, and at the same time, of course, they've been working on foreign investments. I saw an article the other day that noted that that Macedonia has broken its record for FDI, foreign direct investments, for the period of January through September, 838 million euro, and that's just going to keep coming in, I think. And now, so they've established themselves. They're bringing money into the country, creating new jobs, creating wealth, and now that it sounds like they're kind of going after. Now's the time where they're going to go after, the corrupt folks from the previous government. So that's
long overdue.
Very
doing
long
this.
overdue, yeah. So,
they're doing reform of the security services, which is another nexus of corruption and abuse of power. Realignment with the U.S., which is a major source of support for the Albanian cause here, and for SDSM as the enablers of the Albanian cause, or basically the undermining the Macedonian cause in the country. So we're looking to see how this will play out. But if it's beginning under the still existing administration, then it can only intensify under the Trump 2.0 administration. So it's all looking pretty good at the moment.
Yeah, although of course it sure seems, just looking at the world news, that that Donald Trump is the current U.S. president, because Joe Biden doesn't seem to be anywhere except giving pardons to his son and others. He made he gave pardons or commutations, which is commuting the sentence of somebody who's already in prison, of over 1,500 people, I think yesterday or the day before, the largest ever done in U.S. history, which is just including some real wacky cases if you dig into the weeds on that. And there's more to come. He's the president until noon on January 20, 2025, and we fully expect that he will pardon his brother James Biden, who was deep into the corruption with Hunter on everything. And it wasn't just Ukraine. It was Ukraine, it was China. I believe there was a Romania connection in there as well. So but my point is that it seems like the current president is Donald Trump, and that's the way the media is treating him. I saw, I was at the gym this morning, and I couldn't quite see the chyron below, and the CNN, I think it was, that said Jeff Bezos is donating $1 million to the Trump inauguration, along with Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook Meta.
I think this is customary. I think they always do it. But still,
I mean, yes, you have
sign.
Corporations and wealthy people donate money to the inaugural of a president, whoever it is, doesn't matter what party. But I don't know if it's been like, I mean, it just seems like more and more people who are from the left or perceived from the left are kissing the ring, so to speak. So, I mean, you saw Joe, what's
Scarborough.
Sorry?
Joe and Mika.
Joe and Mika,
Joe.
they made their pilgrimage to Mar-a-Lago to kiss the ring. And because they lost. This is for listeners that don't know. This is a Morning Joe on MSNBC, who spent the last 10 years just bashing Donald Trump. So after he was reelected, they lost viewers. And then they went to Mar-a-Lago to try and make up, and then they lost more viewers because of that. So.
And the Washington Post. So it's not the donation that Bezos made. He called off the endorsement of Kamala
Trump,
in the Washington Post, and he had a huge
so there's a real. I mean, I noticed Neil Ferguson, the Scottish historian, who's an American citizen married to Ali Hirson Ali. Ayaan Hirsi Ali, both at the Hoover Institute in Stanford, conservative, and he makes the point. There seems to be a real realignment, in the world. So with the election of Trump, so we'll see if this continues.
It will embolden like-minded governments in Europe. We have them in Italy and Netherlands, but they've been neutered. They haven't done much. But with Trump winning, they actually might grow a spine. We have elections in Germany. There is always like a looming threat of elections in France. It takes an all-out effort to block the actual French People's Party from winning. A huge coalition of the Islamists and the leftists and like urbanites. They all have to get together to defeat the actual French people, Le Pen's party. So, they canceled the elections in Romania because the wrong guy won. This was, my God. Through the Constitutional Court, they said, nah, do over, sorry, no good.
Yeah.
England, like, what to say there? They're arresting people left and right.
Deeply, deeply unpopular after less than 6 months in government.
Yeah.
Then you've got, the French government fell, the German government fell. They've got elections coming up at some point. Now everybody's pissed off at Germany because they decommissioned all their nuclear power plants and it's winter and the price of energy is just skyrocketing throughout Europe. Yeah. Whatever you might say about the French, at least they've kept their nuclear power plants going. Yep. So,
they're more serious as a country.
Yeah. So, and then Angela Merkel is running around doing her book tour with her book called Freedom. Although I did notice somewhere that bookstores in Poland have it. I think it's under the category of fantasy
fiction or
something like that. So yeah. So she's trying to salvage her legacy. She and Obama can get together and do a world tour on trying to salvage each other's legacy. So of course Syria fell. Assad went to Russia, where he has been advised that he should get an apartment on the ground floor and have a taste tester for all of his food. But then, look, as Ben Shapiro points out, Daily Wire, of course, that there really are no good guys in most of the Middle East, with the exception of people like Bibi, who is a very good guy. But Assad wasn't a good guy, and neither is this Al-Jawani, the leader of the HTS or HST, the new group that is supposedly which will be implementing Sharia law throughout Syria,
moderately,
except where the Kurds or the Druze are, and the Kurds or the Druze are actually better people than the guys that have taken over. So,
I'm very, very scared about all this. It's pretty close, actually. We had the huge migrant wave coming through the Balkans. Last time this was happening, I'm really, really afraid of.
But as I've seen, so many reports of various European countries who are taking their Syrian refugees and sending them back now to Syria.
No, come on. Please.
Erdogan, of course, wants to get rid of all the Syrian refugees in Turkey.
No, Erdogan, yeah, sure. They're held in camps in Turkey and also in Istanbul, the big cities. So those in the cities will remain. Those in the camps, they're probably going to say, listen, I might as well pitch my tent back home where I still own used to own an orchard, so maybe something of the house has survived and beats living as a refugee in Turkey. Yeah. Nobody is coming back from Germany, from Austria. European countries have stopped. And it was reported, and I don't even trust these reports, like the CNN prison report, like, please.
Oh, right.
They're reporting that European countries will stop or have stopped processing new asylum applications.
That's it, yeah.
No chance anybody's coming back from Cologne or Frankfurt going back to Aleppo. That's just not going to happen.
Which continues the problem of the Islamicists throughout Europe's capitals, and not just capitals, but other parts. So,
if to the extent that there were alive Islamists, that Assad did not kill them all before fleeing, in that prison, we'll see them in Paris pretty soon. So,
Yeah.
That's I don't know what to say honestly. Such a mess.
Well, let's end, since we're doing a world tour here at the towards the end of this podcast. Let's finish with Bulgaria, as I mentioned in the monologue. So it's October 27, which, let's see, rough calculation, that was a month and a half ago. So they're gonna have an 8th election, it seems. I haven't looked at the news yesterday or today, but they just cannot. They keep. What is the definition of insanity? To keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So, and it's just, and this relates directly to Macedonia, because, as the Prime Minister has said, he needs a responsible, stable government in Bulgaria to negotiate with. And it's 4 years, 7 elections, now going on the 8th. They just, I don't know what it is. It's something in the water, perhaps. But yeah. So,
I mean, as you said, Trump is the president now, de facto. I mean, theoretically and maybe even practically, we could wrap this up even before Inauguration Day. He could actually negotiate this. There is no government, but there is a president with some legitimacy. There is a technical prime minister who can sign on to things. If, can you say no to the president of the United States at this moment? I don't think so. Our government has been asking for mediation, first from Orban, then from, obviously, would welcome a mediation from the US to get this resolved. Our compromise proposals are pretty moderate, should be pretty acceptable to Bulgaria, and any reasonable Bulgarian government which is interested in having good relations between Macedonia and Bulgaria instead of this clusterfuck we have right now should jump at the opportunity, I think, to put this away.
I think you said the word reasonable in there, but that's the missing part here. So,
I mean, they're not stupid. They just have a different. They had a different estimate of what is popular in their country, what will be good for them politically. They helped us get rid of Zaev. It was a big, a big help from their part, honestly. But it came at the cost of hugely undermining relations between the two peoples. And now it's time to put an end to this.
Well, let's hope for that. That's a good note to end on, I think. That this can be this issue that Bulgaria has started with Macedonia can be wrapped up to the satisfaction of both, and the people can get back together and go on living.
Yeah. Make the Balkans great again.
Make the Balkans great again. See, there's no you can't. That's not MB. Yeah, we need to figure that one out. We'll work on that. So, but make Europe great again, mega.
Yeah.
There we go. So, it seems what's happening. Hopefully, we'll see.
If we can save Europe from itself.
Exactly. All right, that's a good way to wrap up. Good catching up with you, and we will circle back here in a couple of weeks, depending on what happens, and hopefully, we don't have too many more weeks like this where the decades occur.
Oh, this was a good one. No, this was a good one.
So. All right, Svetin, good talking to you.
You too, buddy. Take care.
Take care.